The Serenity's dawn drifted through the empty space at the edge of known territory. Captain Veltar watched the stars through the viewing port with 6 of his eyes, while the other 2 monitored the science displays. His crystalline body reflected the soft blue light from the ship's systems. The Kethalari had been studying this region for 3 cycles now, mapping the strange gravitational waves that seemed to come from nowhere. "Captain," called Science Officer Genhai from her station, "the readings are getting stronger. Something big is causing these waves." Veltar moved across the bridge with careful steps. His people were fragile compared to most species in the galaxy, but their minds could process complex data faster than any computer. "Show me the patterns." The holographic display showed waves of energy moving through space like ripples in water. But these ripples were massive, each one stretching across light years. Whatever was causing them had to be enormous. "There," Genhai pointed with a delicate finger. "The source is moving this way." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. The crew of 12 Kethalari watched their instruments with growing worry. They were scientists, not soldiers. Their ship had basic shields and could run fast, but it carried no weapons. "Captain, we should send a message to the collective," suggested Navigator Corben. "If something dangerous is coming, they need to know." Before Veltar could answer, their sensors screamed warnings. The space in front of them began to bend and twist. Reality itself seemed to tear open like fabric being ripped apart. Through the tear came ships. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. The vessels were ugly things made of black metal and sharp angles. They moved in perfect formation, each one the size of a city. Red lights pulsed along their hulls like angry eyes. The largest ships stretched for miles, bristling with weapons that could destroy planets. "By the Crystal Throne," whispered Genhai. "What are those?" Veltar's 6 primary eyes studied the fleet while his mind raced through everything he knew about galactic species. These ships matched no known design. The technology was advanced but brutal, built for one purpose, war. "Get me a communication channel," he ordered. "All frequencies." The communications officer, a young Kethalari named Sylvan, worked frantically at her controls. "No response, Captain. They're not even acknowledging our presence." More ships kept coming through the tear in space. The fleet was massive beyond belief. Veltar estimated at least 10,000 vessels of various sizes. This wasn't an exploration mission or a trading convoy. This was an invasion force. "Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures from their weapons," reported Genhai. "They're scanning nearby systems." "The inhabited ones." Veltar felt his crystal structure grow cold with fear. The nearest inhabited systems held billions of peaceful beings. The Zelrani Gardner worlds, the Mishak research stations, the Polarian Ark colonies. None of them had significant military forces. "Start recording everything," he commanded. "Full sensor sweeps, communication attempts, tactical analysis. If we can't stop them, at least we can warn others." The bridge crew worked with desperate efficiency. They cataloged the alien ships, measured their energy outputs, tracked their movement patterns. The data painted a terrifying picture. These invaders possessed technology that could overwhelm most known civilizations. "I've identified their language, Captain," reported Sylvan. "They call themselves the Vorthak Hegemony. Their communications are military in nature." "Deployment orders, target assignments, conquest schedules." "Conquest schedules?" Veltar's voice cracked like breaking crystal. "Yes, sir. They plan to take 17 systems in the first wave. They estimate total pacification in 47 standard days." The bridge went silent again. 47 days to conquer 17 star systems. The speed of their planned assault suggested they had done this many times before. "Sir, they've noticed us," called Navigator Corben. 3 ships are breaking formation. They're coming this way." Veltar looked at the approaching vessels. Each one was 20 times larger than the Serenity's dawn. Their weapons were already charging, red energy building along massive cannon arrays. "Prepare the emergency beacon," he ordered. "Include everything we've recorded. Send it on all frequencies, maximum power." "Captain, if we do that, they'll definitely detect us," warned Sylvan. "They already have. At least this way, someone might be warned in time." The 3 Vorthak ships accelerated toward them. Veltar could see details on their hulls now. Weapon ports, shield generators, and what looked like symbols carved into the metal. Trophies, perhaps. Evidence of previous conquests. "Beacon is ready, sir," reported the communications officer. "Send it. Send it now." The Serenity's dawn broadcast its message across the galaxy. Star charts showing the Vorthak fleet's position, tactical data about their ships and weapons. analysis of their communication patterns and military doctrine. Most importantly, a desperate plea for help. To any civilization receiving this message, Veltar spoke into the recorder, a massive invasion force has entered our space. We estimate 10,000 vessels with advanced military capabilities. They call themselves the Vorthak Hegemony, and plan to conquer 17 systems within 47 days. We are transmitting all tactical data. Please, if you have the ability to resist them, act quickly. Millions of innocent lives depend on it. The message burst outward at faster-than-light speeds, racing toward every inhabited system in the region. Some would receive it in hours, others in days. Veltar only hoped it would not be too late. The approaching Vorthak ships opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced through space, each one capable of destroying a small moon. The Serenity's Dawn threw all power to its engines and shields, but it was like trying to stop an avalanche with a flower. Engineering reports we've lost main power, called Corben. Shield generators are failing. Keep transmitting, Veltar ordered. Use emergency power if you have to. Every second of data we send might save someone. The ship shook as enemy fire found its mark. The elegant crystal corridors cracked and shattered. Emergency lights flickered on as the main systems died. Through it all, the communications array kept broadcasting, sending their warning to anyone who could hear it. Captain, this is Science Officer Gen Hai. Our analysis suggests the Vorthak have been planning this for cycles. Their formation patterns, supply ship ratios, the speed of their advance. This isn't their first invasion. They've done this before, many times. Another hit rocked the ship. The artificial gravity failed, sending the crew floating through the bridge. Veltar grabbed a support beam and looked at his people. They were afraid but still working, still trying to save others even as their own ship died around them. Sir, we're receiving acknowledgement signals, reported Sylvan through the chaos. Multiple species have received our transmission. They're broadcasting warnings to their fleets and colonies. Good, Veltar whispered. Then we succeeded. The final salvo from the Vorthak ships tore the Serenity's Dawn apart, but their sacrifice ensured that across dozens of star systems, evacuation alarms were sounding. Military commanders were studying the tactical data. Emergency broadcasts were alerting billions of civilians to the coming storm. The message had been sent. Now someone else would have to answer it. As the Serenity's Dawn became expanding debris, its final transmission continued to spread through the galaxy, carrying a single desperate hope, that somewhere among the stars, someone had the power to stop what was coming. 3 days had passed since the Kethalari warning reached the civilized galaxy. The response was exactly what military analysts had predicted: panic, evacuation, and retreat. The Vorthak hegemony advanced like a dark tide, swallowing outer rim colonies with mechanical efficiency. Admiral Thekmon of the Galactic Defense Coalition watched the tactical displays from his command ship with 4 of his hearts heavy with despair. The rabbit-like Leprani had evolved from prey animals, and every instinct told him to run from predators this dangerous. But he was a soldier, and soldiers had duties. Sir, another colony has gone dark, reported his aide, Lieutenant Jordan. The Mishak research station at Kepler 442, 2 million civilians. Thekmon's ears drooped. Any word from the evacuation fleets? Some got out. Most didn't. The Vorthak are moving too fast. The bridge of the Coalition flagship Unity's Hope buzzed with desperate activity. Representatives from 12 different species worked together, trying to coordinate a defense that everyone knew was hopeless. The Galactic Defense Coalition was designed to stop pirates and settle trade disputes, not face the invasion force that could destroy star systems. Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from 17 different sectors, reported the communications officer, a mantis-like Threxy named Clickfar. Everyone wants military support, but we barely have enough ships to protect 3 major worlds. Do what we can, Thekmon replied. Prioritize the core worlds and major population centers. Tell the outer colonies to evacuate toward the galactic center. It was a grim choice, but the only one that made sense. Better to save some lives than lose them all trying to defend everywhere at once. The Admiral studied the tactical display showing Vorthak advances. Red arrows pushed deeper into Coalition space with each passing hour. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting something unusual, called the sensor operator, a blob-like Gellan named Ploop. Large energy signature dropping out of faster-than-light travel in Sector 7. Another Vorthak fleet? Thekmon asked, his heart sinking further. No, sir. The energy pattern is completely different. And it's just one contact, very large but alone. The Admiral moved to the sensor station. On the screen, a single dot appeared at the edge of Vorthak territory. The energy readings were unlike anything in the database. Whatever this ship was, it used technology that no known civilization possessed. Attempt contact, he ordered. Clickvar worked at the communications array. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Thekmon of the Galactic Defense Coalition. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. The response came immediately, but in a voice that sent chills through the bridge crew. It was artificial, clearly computer-generated, but underneath the mechanical tones was something that made every prey-evolved species on the bridge want to hide. This is the Terran vessel Retribution, representing the Terran Defense Compact. We received a distress signal regarding hostile invasion forces. Please transmit tactical data and coordinates of enemy positions. Thekmon's ears twitched with confusion. Lieutenant, run a search for Terran and Terra in the galactic database. Jordan worked quickly at his station. No matches, sir. No records of any species calling themselves Terran, or claiming a homeworld called Terra. Unknown vessel calling itself Retribution. Clickvar transmitted. We have no record of your species or government. Please provide identification and authorization codes. This time, the response came in a different voice. Organic, not artificial, but speaking in tones that suggested barely controlled aggression. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Navy. We don't have authorization codes because we've never needed them. As for identification, you're about to see exactly what we are. Commander Chen, Admiral Thekmon took over communications personally. This is Admiral Thekmon of the Coalition. The enemy force numbers over 10,000 vessels with superior technology. I must advise you to retreat to a safe distance. A sound came through the speakers that took several seconds for the translation computers to identify. Laughter. But it was the kind of laughter that predators made when they found something amusing about their prey's fear. Admiral, with respect, we've been tracking the Vorthak for some time. We know exactly what we're dealing with. Retribution advanced to contact. Weapons free. The long-range sensors tracked the unknown ship as it accelerated toward the Vorthak fleet. Its speed was impossible. Coalition vessels could manage perhaps 10% of light speed in normal space. But this Retribution was moving at nearly 30% and still accelerating. Sir, I'm getting detailed scans of the vessel, reported Ploop. It's massive. Approximately 15 kilometers long, 4 kilometers wide. The armor appears to incorporate materials that shouldn't exist according to our physics models. What kind of materials? Thekmon asked. Neutronium matrices, exotic matter composites, and something our computers classify as impossible substance. The power readings suggest their reactor operates on principles we don't understand. Lieutenant Jordan looked up from his station with wide eyes. Sir, I'm detecting weapon systems on that ship that... They're not just advanced. They're using physics that our science says is theoretical at best. On the tactical display, the single dot representing the Retribution approached the massive red cloud of Vorthak ships. Every military officer on the bridge expected to watch a brave but futile last stand. Instead, they witnessed something that would be talked about in military academies for generations. The human ship opened fire. Energy beams lanced out from the Retribution that made Vorthak weapons look like children's toys. The beams didn't just destroy enemy ships. They unmade them at the molecular level. Vorthak vessels that had tanked everything the Coalition could throw at them simply ceased to exist when touched by human weapons. By the sacred Warren, whispered Thekmon. What are those weapons? I'm reading massive gravitational distortions, reported Ploop. They're somehow weaponizing gravity itself. And those other energy signatures, they appear to be manipulating fundamental forces. The battle, if it could be called that, continued for 6 hours. The single human ship moved through the Vorthak fleet like a predator among helpless prey. It dodged attacks that should have been impossible to avoid, absorbed hits that should have destroyed it, and dealt death with casual efficiency. The most disturbing part was the commentary from the human crew, broadcast on military frequencies for all to hear. Nice shot, Thompson. You got 3 with that gravity lance. Thanks, Commander. These Vorthak have interesting shield harmonics. I'm learning to adjust for them. Rodriguez, what's your missile count? Down to 80%, ma'am. Should I start rationing? Negative. We've got plenty. This is what we brought them for. The casual nature of their conversation while conducting warfare that redefined what was possible in space combat left the Coalition officers speechless. These humans talked about destroying kilometer-long warships the way most people discussed swatting insects. "Sir," Jordan's voice was barely a whisper, "the Vorthak fleet is retreating." On the tactical display, the red cloud of enemy ships was indeed pulling back. The massive invasion force that had been unstoppable for 3 days was running from a single vessel. "Unknown ship Retribution," Admiral Thekmon transmitted. "This is Admiral Thekmon. Your assistance has been unprecedented. The Coalition formally requests a diplomatic meeting to discuss terms of alliance and mutual defense." Commander Chen's voice came back immediately. "Admiral will be happy to meet. But first, let me ask you something. In your database, do you have records of planets classified as Deathworlds? Worlds where the environment is so hostile that complex life shouldn't be able to evolve?" "Yes, of course. There are thousands of such worlds cataloged. They're considered impossible for habitation. Well, Admiral, we evolved on one of those impossible worlds, and where we come from, the Vorthak would be considered a minor threat. We'll meet you at your capital station in 72 hours. Chen out!" The communication ended, leaving the bridge of the Unity's Hope in stunned silence. In the space of 6 hours, everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare, technology, and the limits of evolution had been turned upside down. Admiral Thekmon looked at the tactical display showing the retreating Vorthak fleet and the single human ship that had broken them. His species had words for creatures that were both protector and predator, guardian and destroyer. The ancient Leprani word was apex, and Thekmon suspected the galaxy was about to learn exactly what that meant. The diplomatic station Concordia Prime had never hosted a first contact meeting quite like this one. Built in neutral space between 3 major civilizations, the massive wheel-shaped station was designed to handle delicate negotiations between species with different environmental needs. But preparing for the humans had required unprecedented modifications. Ambassador Silnara of the Kethalari Collective stood in the main conference chamber, her crystalline form reflecting the soft lights as she reviewed the technical reports. Her people had built this station using their finest materials, but the human requirements had pushed everything to its limits. "Ambassador," called her aide, Genkol, "the human vessel is approaching. It's larger than we anticipated." Through the transparent aluminum viewing wall, Silnara watched the Retribution dock with the station. The ship was so massive that the station's docking ports, designed to handle the largest known vessels, barely managed to connect to one of its smaller airlocks. The human ship extended for kilometers beyond the station's structure. "Have you finished analyzing their ship?" she asked. Genkol consulted his datapad with nervous movements. "The science teams are baffled. The hull incorporates materials that should collapse under their own gravity. The power output from their reactor suggests they're somehow converting matter directly into energy with near-perfect efficiency. And their weapon—" "Yes, Ambassador. Their weapons appear to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. Gravity, electromagnetic force, even what our physicists think might be controlled manipulation of quantum fields." Silnara felt her crystal structure chill. The implications were staggering. If humans could weaponize the basic forces that held reality together, what else were they capable of? "Representatives from the Coalition are arriving," reported the station's AI. "Admiral Thekmon of the Leprani, General Korthak of the Braxian Empire, High Scholar Velmoon of the Enlightened Worlds." The conference chamber filled with delegates from across known space. Each species brought their finest military minds and diplomats. All of them had watched the recordings of the human ship's engagement with the Vorthak fleet. All of them were afraid. "Attention, Concordia Prime," came a transmission from the Retribution. "This is Commander Chen requesting permission to board. Be advised, we're coming in environmental suits rated for your atmosphere, but our baseline physiology might be concerning to some species." Admiral Thekmon, his rabbit-like ears twitching with anxiety, spoke into the communications array. "Permission granted, Commander. We've prepared the conference chamber to accommodate various environmental needs." "Copy that, Admiral. Fair warning. We're bringing a small security detail. They're unarmed by our standards, but your weapon scanners might have different opinions." 20 minutes later, the chamber's main entrance opened, and the humans entered. The immediate reaction from every non-human in the room was instinctive and unanimous. Freeze and try not to be noticed. Commander Sarah Chen stood 2 meters tall in her environmental suit. But the suit couldn't hide the predatory grace of her movements. Behind her came 3 other humans, each moving with the same controlled lethality. Even through their suits, it was clear these beings had evolved to be killers. "Greetings," Chen said, her voice carrying easily across the chamber despite the translation devices. "I'm Commander Sarah Chen, representing the Terran Defense Compact. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Ambassador Silnara found her voice first. "Welcome to Concordia Prime, Commander Chen. I am Ambassador Silnara. We are grateful for your intervention against the Vorthak, but we must admit we have many questions." "I imagine you do," Chen replied, moving to the designated human section of the chamber. Even her casual movements made several delegates step back involuntarily. "Before we begin, I should explain something about human physiology. Our species evolved under conditions that most of you would classify as impossible for complex life." General Korthak, a large bear-like Braxian known for his courage in battle, spoke up. "Commander, our analysis of your ship's performance suggests technological capabilities far beyond anything we've encountered. How did your species develop such advanced systems?" Chen's laugh was not malicious, but it sent shivers through every prey-evolved species in the room. "General, our technology developed because we needed it to survive. You see, our homeworld isn't just a death world by your standards. It's actively trying to kill everything on it at all times." She activated a holographic projector, showing images of Earth. The delegates gasped at what they saw: massive storms that could level continents, volcanic eruptions that changed the planet's climate, earthquakes that split the ground for thousands of kilometers, and through it all, life that was armed, armored, and designed for war. "This is Terra," Chen continued. "Gravity 2.3 times galactic standard. Atmosphere 21% oxygen, which would be toxic to most of you. Weather systems powered by a fusion reactor that we call the Sun, and every single life form on the planet is either predator or prey, with most being both depending on the situation." High Scholar Velmoon, whose species prided itself on academic achievement, leaned forward with obvious fascination despite her fear. "Commander, how did intelligent life survive such conditions?" "By becoming very good at warfare," Chen replied simply. "Humans evolved from pack hunters. We developed tools because we needed weapons. We learned to cooperate because solitary humans died quickly. We mastered technology because everything on our world was trying to eat us, kill us, or poison us." She switched the display to show human history: wars that spanned continents, weapons that could level cities. Technology developed not for exploration or art, but for survival and dominance. Every human child grows up learning to assess threats, calculate risks, and respond to danger with overwhelming force. What you call advanced military technology is just our normal approach to problem solving. Admiral Thekmon's voice was barely a whisper. "Commander, what is your definition of overwhelming force?" Chen's expression was hidden by her helmet, but her tone suggested amusement. "Admiral, the Retribution is what we classify as a light cruiser. It carries a crew of 1,200 and is designed for reconnaissance and rapid response missions. Our capital ships are somewhat larger." The silence in the chamber was absolute. What they had witnessed destroy an entire invasion fleet was considered a light ship by human standards. "How many ships does your fleet possess?" asked General Korthak. "General, that's classified information. But I can tell you that the Terran Defense Compact maintains sufficient forces to protect human interests and honor our commitments to allies." "Ambassador?" Silnara found the courage to ask the question everyone was thinking. "Commander, what are your intentions regarding our civilizations? You've demonstrated capabilities that could conquer the known galaxy." Chen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a tone that every primitive brain in the room recognized as the sound of an apex predator making a decision about whether they were food. "Ambassador, humans evolved as pack hunters. We protect our pack. The question is whether you want to be part of our pack or not." "What would that mean?" asked Velmoon. "It means we provide protection from threats like the Vorthak. In return, you provide us with information about galactic affairs and accept certain behavioral modifications." "What kind of modifications?" Thekmon asked. "Nothing major. Stop enslaving sapient species. Cease genocide as a military tactic. Treat warfare as a tool for specific objectives rather than entertainment. Basic civilized behavior by human standards." The delegates exchanged glances. What humans considered basic civilized behavior was actually more advanced than many galactic civilizations had achieved. And if we refuse? Asked General Korthak. Chen's tone remained pleasant, but every predator-evolved species in the room recognized the underlying message. General, humans have been dealing with hostile forces for millions of years. We're very good at it. I'd strongly recommend acceptance of our protection rather than testing our capabilities. The meeting continued for hours, but the fundamental dynamic had been established. Humanity had revealed itself as the apex predator of the galaxy, and everyone else was deciding whether they wanted to be under human protection or potentially become human prey. By the end of the session, the Terran Defense Compact had gained 17 new client species and established itself as the dominant military force in known space, and Commander Chen hadn't even mentioned that Earth was considered a garden world by the standards of some human colonies. Dr. Velmoon had spent her entire life studying the impossible. As the galaxy's leading xenobiologist and evolutionary theorist, she had cataloged thousands of species and their homeworld environments. But nothing in her research had prepared her for what she was seeing now. This cannot be accurate, she muttered, reviewing the data for the 15th time. Complex intelligence cannot evolve under these conditions. 3 weeks had passed since the first meeting with Commander Chen. The human had agreed to provide detailed information about Earth and human evolution in exchange for galactic databases on other species and civilizations. What the humans shared challenged everything known about how life developed intelligence. Dr. Velmoon stood in her laboratory aboard the research station Infinite Curiosity, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's environmental data. Her 8 tentacle-like arms moved constantly, manipulating different data streams while her large brain processed information that defied logic. "Doctor," called her assistant, a young enlightened named Colvin. "The latest atmospheric analysis from the human homeworld just arrived." "Show me," she replied. Though part of her dreaded seeing more impossible data, the hologram updated to show Earth's atmospheric composition. Velmoon's skin changed from its normal blue to a sickly green color as she processed the information. 21% oxygen, she whispered. "That's nearly toxic levels. How do they not burst into flames with every spark?" "That's not the strangest part, Doctor," Colvin replied. "Look at their geological activity." The display shifted to show tectonic activity across Earth's surface. Massive plates of rock grinding against each other, releasing energy equivalent to thousands of nuclear weapons every day. Volcanic activity that regularly changed the planet's climate. Earthquake zones that would make most species consider entire continents uninhabitable. And yet they built cities directly on top of the most active fault lines, Velmoon observed. They built homes next to active volcanoes. They treat natural disasters that would end civilizations as minor inconveniences. Her communication panel chimed with an incoming transmission. The image of Commander Chen appeared, still wearing her environmental suit but now in what appeared to be her ship's laboratory. "Dr. Velmoon, I understand you have questions about human evolution. I'm prepared to provide additional data if you're interested. Commander, I must be direct. The information you've shared suggests your species evolved under conditions that should have prevented the development of complex life, let alone intelligence. How is this possible?" Chen's voice carried what humans called amusement. "Doctor, I think you're approaching this backwards. You're asking how intelligence evolved on Earth. The better question is how intelligence could evolve anywhere else." "I don't understand. Dr. Velmoon, what's the primary driving force behind evolutionary advancement?" "Selection pressure," Velmoon replied automatically. "Species adapt to survive environmental challenges." "Exactly. Now, what kind of environment would create the strongest selection pressure for intelligence, tool use, cooperation, and rapid adaptation?" Velmoon's skin shifted to a pale yellow as understanding began to dawn. An environment where only the smartest, most adaptable, most cooperative individuals survive to reproduce. Earth didn't just encourage these traits, Doctor. It demanded them. Any human ancestor that wasn't smart enough, fast enough, or cooperative enough died before having children. For millions of years, our planet filtered out weakness with ruthless efficiency. Chen activated her own holographic display, showing the evolutionary tree of humanity. Our ancestors survived ice ages that covered most of the planet. They lived through asteroid impacts that ended most other large species. They competed with predators that make your worst nightmares look friendly. The display showed creatures that made Velmoon's tentacles curl with fear, massive carnivores with teeth like swords, pack hunters with intelligence rivaling early humans, environmental disasters that would have sterilized most worlds. Doctor, humans didn't evolve despite Earth's hostility. We evolved because of it. Every generation faced challenges that would destroy most civilizations. Only the most capable survived. But the energy requirements, Velmoon protested. Intelligence is metabolically expensive. How did your species support large brains while facing constant survival pressure? Chen's laugh was predatory. We learned to hunt in groups and use tools. Our ancestors didn't just eat plants, Doctor. They ate everything. Apex predators, other intelligent species. Anything that provided the calories needed to fuel large brains. Velmoon's skin went white with shock. Other intelligent species? At least 6 other intelligent humanoid species shared Earth with early humans. None of them survived contact with us. We outcompeted them for resources, territory, and mates. Sometimes we absorbed them through interbreeding. Sometimes we simply eliminated them. The implications hit Velmoon like a physical blow. Humans weren't just apex predators. They were apex predators who had eliminated their competition not through accident, but through deliberate action. Commander, this means your species has experience in warfare against other intelligent beings spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Correct. And not just against other species, Doctor. Humans have been fighting each other for just as long. We've developed warfare, strategy, and military technology through constant practice against opponents who knew all our tricks. Chen brought up historical data showing human conflicts, wars that spanned continents and lasted generations, technological advancement driven by military necessity, strategies refined through countless battles against enemies who fought back with equal intelligence and determination. Every weapon in our arsenal was tested in combat against thinking opponents. Every tactic was refined through trials where failure meant extinction. Most species develop military capabilities as a side effect of other technologies. Humans develop technology primarily for military applications. Dr. Velmoon felt her worldview crumbling, but your behavior toward us has been protective, almost benevolent. Doctor, humans are pack hunters. We protect our pack. The question was whether you wanted to be part of our pack or potential prey. Most of your species chose protection. What about species that choose to be prey? Chen's pause was longer this time. Doctor, there are no species on Earth that chose to be prey. The ones that couldn't adapt went extinct. The ones that could adapt either joined human civilization or found ecological niches where they didn't compete with us. And the Vorthak? The Vorthak made the mistake of threatening our new pack members. Humans take protection of allies very seriously. It's part of our evolutionary programming. Velmoon reviewed everything she knew about the Vorthak engagement. A single human ship had destroyed an invasion fleet designed to conquer 17 star systems. They had done it casually, almost playfully. Commander, when you engaged the Vorthak, were you using full military capability? Of course not, Doctor. We used appropriate force for the threat level. The Vorthak were dangerous to civilian populations, but not particularly challenging from a military perspective. What would constitute a challenging military opponent by human standards? Chen was quiet for a long moment. Doctor, we've been preparing for interstellar warfare for 3 centuries. We've studied every possible threat scenario. We've built our military assuming we would face opponents with technology and capabilities equal to or greater than our own. And the Vorthak didn't meet those standards? The Vorthak used brute force tactics with limited strategic thinking. They were dangerous because of their numbers and willingness to destroy civilian populations. But their actual military capabilities were relatively primitive. Dr. Velmoon felt a chill that had nothing to do with the laboratory temperature. Commander, what would you classify as an advanced military threat? A species that had evolved under conditions similar to Earth. Multiple intelligent species competing for the same resources. Technological development driven by military necessity. Experience in warfare against opponents of equal intelligence and capabilities. Do such species exist? We're still looking, Doctor. But so far, Earth appears to be unique in the galaxy. Most species evolved on worlds where cooperation was rewarded and aggression was discouraged. You developed intelligence for exploration, art, and scientific advancement, while humans developed intelligence for war. Among other things, yes. But Doctor, this is why the Terran Defense Compact works. You provide the curiosity, creativity, and peaceful advancement that make civilization worth protecting. We provide the military capability to ensure it survives. The transmission ended, leaving Dr. Velmoon alone with data that redefined everything she thought she knew about evolution, intelligence, and the nature of sapient life in the galaxy. She looked at her research notes with new understanding. Every peaceful species she had studied had evolved on worlds that rewarded cooperation and punished aggression. They had developed intelligence to understand their environment, create art, and build harmonious societies. Humans had developed intelligence to survive in a world that wanted to kill them every day for millions of years, and now they had decided to protect everyone else. 6 months after first contact, Ambassador Silnara stood in the observation deck of Concordia Prime, watching the construction of humanity's first permanent diplomatic facility in galactic space. The structure was massive, functional, and somehow intimidating despite being designed for peaceful purposes. "It's remarkable how quickly they work," commented Ambassador Thekval of the Mishak Confederation. Joining her at the viewing wall, Silnara nodded, her crystalline structure reflecting the lights of the construction project. "They treat building like they treat everything else. Maximum efficiency, minimal wasted motion, always prepared for the worst-case scenario." The human facility wasn't just a diplomatic station. According to the public plans, it included research laboratories, communication centers, and cultural exchange facilities. According to intelligence reports that Silnara definitely wasn't supposed to have access to, it also contained military command centers, weapons manufacturing capabilities, and docking facilities for ships that could level planets. "How are your people adjusting to the new reality?" Thekval asked. Silnara considered the question carefully. The Kethalari Collective had been among the first to accept human protection, but adjustment had been challenging. When your protectors were apex predators who casually discussed planetary destruction as a policy option, adaptation required significant mental flexibility. "Better than expected," she replied. "The humans keep their promises, and they've been surprisingly patient with our questions about their culture and capabilities." What she didn't mention was how those conversations had gone. Learning that humans considered biological warfare unsporting, but acceptable in certain circumstances. Discovering that their definition of proportionate response included scenarios that would terrify most civilizations. Understanding that human children played games that would constitute military training for adult soldiers of other species. "The Braxian Empire is struggling more with the adjustment," Thekval noted. General Korthak submitted a request to observe human military exercises. The humans agreed but warned him that the experience might be traumatic. What happened? He watched a training simulation where human soldiers practiced urban warfare in a city populated by their own civilians. The exercise assumed enemy occupation, guerrilla warfare, and acceptable casualty rates that included significant civilian losses. Silnara felt her crystal structure grow cold. How did he react? He's been in psychological counseling for 2 weeks. Apparently, watching humans casually plan for scenarios that included the death of their own people while maintaining perfect tactical discipline was educational. The 2 ambassadors watched as human construction crews worked on their facility. Even their civilian workers moved with military precision. Each team coordinated with others in patterns that suggested extensive training in organization and efficiency. "Ambassador Silnara." "Ambassador Thekval," came a familiar voice. Commander Chen approached them, her environmental suit replaced with a lighter breathing apparatus that allowed her features to be visible. The sight was still unsettling. Human faces were designed to show emotion, and those emotions often included expressions that suggested barely controlled violence. "Commander Chen," Silnara replied, "the construction is proceeding rapidly. We are motivated to establish permanent facilities," Chen replied. "Long-term presence requires proper infrastructure. Speaking of which, I wanted to discuss the cultural exchange program." This was another adaptation challenge. The humans had proposed student exchanges, scientific collaboration, and cultural sharing programs. On the surface, it seemed peaceful and beneficial. In practice, it meant exposing young minds from peaceful civilizations to beings who considered warfare a natural expression of intelligence. "The enlightened worlds have expressed interest in hosting human researchers," Thekval offered. Dr. Velmoon believes that human perspectives on evolution and adaptation could advance their scientific understanding. Chen's expression shifted to what humans called a smile. On any other species, it would have been reassuring. On a human, it displayed teeth that had evolved for tearing meat. Dr. Velmoon has been asking fascinating questions. We're equally interested in learning from species that developed intelligence for peaceful purposes. And the military cooperation agreements? Silnara asked, proceeding as planned. We've established monitoring stations in 17 systems, rapid response fleets in 6 sectors, and joint training facilities in 3 locations. The Vorthak haven't attempted another incursion since our initial encounter. The casual way Chen discussed military deployments that represented more firepower than most civilizations could imagine was another adjustment challenge. Humans spoke about planetary defense systems the way others discussed weather monitoring. Commander, if I may ask, Thekval began carefully, what is humanity's long-term goal for the galaxy? Chen was quiet for a moment, her predatory features thoughtful. Ambassador, humans evolved in a dangerous environment where survival required constant vigilance. Our goal is to ensure that never happens again. You want to eliminate all danger from the galaxy? We want to ensure that peaceful civilizations can develop without facing extinction-level threats. Species like yours should be free to pursue art, science, and philosophy without worrying about invasion, genocide, or conquest. Silnara found the irony both reassuring and terrifying. Humanity's solution to galactic violence was to become so overwhelmingly powerful that no one would dare threaten their protectorates. And species that prefer aggression? She asked. Chen's smile became less reassuring. There's always room for negotiation. Most aggressive species can be convinced to redirect their energy toward productive purposes. Exploration, challenging sports, competitive research. And if they can't be convinced, then they become object lessons for other species considering similar behavior. The statement was delivered in the same tone Chen might use to discuss lunch plans. This casual approach to violence that could reshape star systems was perhaps the most difficult aspect of human psychology for other species to understand. The Vorthak, for example, have requested a ceasefire and open diplomatic channels, Chen continued. They're interested in discussing new directions for their civilization that don't involve conquering their neighbors. You convinced them to abandon their entire cultural identity? Thekval asked. We convinced them that continuing their previous behavior would result in their extinction. Humans are very good at making that point clearly. The Vorthak leadership proved intelligent enough to understand the mathematics of their situation. Ambassador Silnara looked out at the construction project again. In 6 months, humanity had fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy. Aggressive species were reconsidering their life choices. Peaceful civilizations were experiencing unprecedented security and freedom to develop their cultures. Commander, do humans ever regret the responsibility you've taken on? She asked. Chen's expression softened slightly. Ambassador, humans spent millions of years fighting for survival on a world that wanted to kill us. We fought other intelligent species, natural disasters, disease, and each other. The galaxy you've built here with dozens of species cooperating peacefully, pursuing knowledge and art and beauty, this is what we were fighting to protect all along. Even though you didn't know we existed, we knew that intelligence had to lead somewhere better than constant warfare. You and the other peaceful species represent proof that evolution can produce cooperation instead of just competition. You're what we hope humanity can become. The 3 of them stood in comfortable silence, watching human workers and alien observers collaborate on construction projects. In the distance, the first joint research vessel was being assembled, designed with human engineering and alien scientific instruments. There is one thing I'm curious about, Thekval said. What do humans do for entertainment? Chen's predatory grin returned. Ambassador, would you like to attend a human sporting event? We've set up a small arena in the diplomatic facility. Nothing too intense, just a friendly competition. Both ambassadors agreed immediately, then spent the next 3 days in psychological counseling, after watching humans play what they considered a gentle, recreational activity that would have qualified as gladiatorial combat by galactic standards. But they also noted that human competitors helped injured opponents, followed rules strictly even when winning was at stake, and celebrated both victory and defeat with equal enthusiasm. The humans were predators, certainly, but they were honorable predators who had chosen to hunt problems instead of people, and in a galaxy full of species who had never learned to fight for themselves, that made all the difference. By the end of the first year, the Terran Defense Compact included 43 species, maintained peace across 8 sectors, and had eliminated 7 separate threats to galactic stability. The age of human protection had begun, and the galaxy was learning that sometimes the most peaceful solution required the most dangerous guardians.